Hello and welcome to Breakfast All Day. I'm Matt here with Christy and Alonso. Our next movie is The United States versus Billie Holiday. This is from director Lee Daniels. And Alonso, please tell us all about this movie.
Boy, is it ever from director Lee Daniels.
And yet it's not. And yet it's not. Let's talk about that.
Okay. Written by playwright Susan Laurie Parks. This is a look at the career of Billie Holiday through the lens of the persecution she suffered at the hands of the FBI, which kind of makes this an interesting joint feature with MLK FBI and Judas and the Black Messiah, all of which came out in recent weeks. Andra Day, who is best known at this point as a singer, but I think if she wants to be a film actress, she could be based on her incredible performance here, plays Billie Holiday, who is, of course, tormented by her drug addiction and personal issues. But the film really shows how a lot of the mess in her life was exacerbated by the fact that the FBI was kind of out to get her. This one guy in particular, Harry Anslinger, who's played here by Garrett Hedlund, was obsessed with Billie Holiday, and both for the fact that she was a drug addict and he was insanely like anti everything. Like he kind of began the hysterical war on drugs in this country, but also because she would sing the song Strange Fruit, which is a blistering sort of anti-lynching, anti-racism song about the American South. And they wanted to stop her from performing it. Then she did not want to stop performing it. And so stuff got ugly. And the way that Lee Daniels tells this movie, I was kind of surprised when I did the research afterwards to find out this is actually a true story, because it's some of the filmmaking here is so bonkers that I thought, well, this can't possibly be what actually went down. But no, it is. The FBI was literally obsessed with Billie Holiday, furious about Strange Fruit, and did everything they could to undermine her and destroy her life, to the point that they handcuffed her to her deathbed while they were looking for drugs in her room. So yeah, this movie is, if you are used to Lee Daniels or you like Lee Daniels, sort of, I call it kind of a purple style of filmmaking where he likes to go big and he likes to go broad and he likes to put a very fine point on everything that he can, then you'll know what you're in for here and you'll be fine with that. If you are less enamored of it, you may have a hard time dealing with how this movie tells its story. But what is undeniable is the greatness of Andra Day's performance as Billie Holiday. She's extraordinary. It's no easy feat not only to play a real life legend, but also to play a real life legend that's already been played by somebody immortally. The Diana Ross turn in Lady Sings the Blues 1972, which was Ross's first film and got her an Academy Award nomination. Andra Day is excellent. Trevante Rhodes as an undercover FBI agent who gets close to her, also terrific. They generate real chemistry. This is a very sexy movie. Lee Daniels, has a love of like kind of 50s movie gloss, but I'd say 70s movies like sexuality. He's very frank and uncompromising with that stuff. I didn't adore this movie, but I was never bored by this movie, and I loved watching Andra Day's performance.
I kind of didn't think it was bonkers enough. I wanted more bonkers Lee Daniels-ishness because in a lot of ways, it's a very traditional music biopic structure. I mean, It literally begins with her toward the end of her life doing an interview. Talking
to an interviewer, yeah.
And then there's a flashback, and then it comes back to the interview. Yeah. And then and then when this happened, tell me more about this. And then it flashes back. And so I found that to be surprisingly safe and cliched in its structure, given that Lee Daniels is a filmmaker who does take a lot of chances. Yeah. It's got all his melodrama, certainly, and nudity, certainly. What is bonkers, did you think, Alonso?
Just, I think the shamelessness of of cliches like that, of having the interviewer, who's played by the wonderful, Leslie Jordan. Thank you. Yes. Flooded my head as soon as I had to think about it. Let's go back to where it all began. I'm like, oh, well, we're really doing this movie? Okay, fine. The fact you have an FBI, like some flunky at the FBI says something along the lines of like, they say Strange Fruit is the starting pistol for what some are calling the civil rights movement. Just like the kind of dialogue in a historical movie that you can't believe we're still using.
It's so lame, right? Yeah. It's surprisingly lame and safe.
But he like owns it so hard, that is where for gets that. And just, like you said, the melodrama and the nudity is like, that's pure Lee Daniels.
And there is like a fever dream heroin kind of sequence.
Yes, where Trevante Rhodes, his character, tries heroin, and basically 9-year-old Billie Holiday grabs him by the wrist and then guides him through her tormented childhood.
Through the brothel where her mom worked.
Like,
Matt, what did you think?
I like this. I liked it for the most part. Leslie Jordan took me a little bit out of the movie because I can, every time I see him, I can't ever not think of the video where he gets his stickers that's shown up on YouTube. Have you guys ever seen that video?
No.
Oh my God. Like he gets these stickers in the mail and it's just like 2 minutes of him just wigging out. Like, aren't these amazing? Oh, they just make everything so beautiful. It's fucking hilarious.
Speaking of wigs, his hair is amazing.
Yeah. Yes. No, there's a lot that I really liked in this. It does give something that we forget looking back on it is that Strange Fruit as a song was, and honestly, like rightly considered problematic to the people in power because it was reminding everyone else in the country, these fucking lynchings are still going on.
It was inflammatory, right? Yeah.
Right. It's very inflammatory, and as well it should be. And she was at that moment kind of the only major star that was addressing that in that way. You don't, what this movie doesn't really do is give you much as to what, apart from that, like what made her the breakout star of the time. Which I get because that the story's more about how the FBI fucked with her. And B, if you do that, then you're going even farther into every other musical biopic, right?
Right.
And then you have people around her like, oh, you don't want to try this.
They at least opted to do a section of her life, which is always a better approach.
Right. Andra Day's amazing in this.
So good.
Yeah. And I felt like at times she really reminded me of Eartha Kitt. Both in kind of like she's able to put on this distance from time to time, and authority, this kind of reserved authority that Eartha Kitt would be really good at doing. But yeah, I thought Trevante Rhodes is great in this. It's funny when you watch this movie, watch when they do like the snapshot stuff, because when Trevante Rhodes grins for the camera, he looks like he's 12. He's got that little kid like,
and you also get him in both cozy sweaters and like super tight like t-shirts and tank tops
and topless. That dude is fucking ripped.
This is the Lee Daniels influence right here. Is Trevante Rhodes topless?
Yeah, that dude is ripped. But it drags. Like it in places, it's the same problem I had with Bill. Like, this doesn't need to really be over 2 hours long.
Yeah.
It is interesting that, especially in the wake of getting that Hoover movie we got a few years back, like, boy, did Hoover really hate black people. And yeah, he did. Right.
And their allies, if you watch any of the Gene Seberg movies.
Right. Exactly. I couldn't help but think, like, when it shows, the end cards are infuriating, and rightly should be, but there's that bit about Englinger getting this award later in life, and I thought, oh yeah, because that's when Hoover's still in charge and he's got something on everybody.
From LBJ, right? That's the president who awarded
it was
Kennedy, right? It was Kennedy. Sorry.
And I should say that Susan Laurie Parks is adapting a nonfiction book here about the history of the drug war in America, and I will say, if nothing else, I think this movie at least kind of has the power to alter our public perception of Billie Holiday and her life and her tragedy. Because I think now the general idea is like, oh, great singer, but that heroin really brought her down. And now it's like, oh, great singer, and the heroin brought her down, and she was additionally fucked over by Hoover's FBI, and so that needs to be part of the legacy. That needs to be part of the popular narrative when we talk about this great singer and what happened to her.
Yeah. But that's not all that she, I'm sorry, Matt, I was gonna say that's not all that she is, though. Like the parts I liked, her, of course, the on-stage presence is incredible, and she's not doing an exact imitation, and she shouldn't be. She's like got the presence and
she's doing her own vocals,
the phrasing. She's singing. She's doing the phrasing and the slight raspiness. But and she's electrifying. But I kind of also just enjoyed watching her like smoke cigarettes and shoot the shit backstage with her friends. Like she's got such charisma. Yeah. She's so like alive and electric. And so, yeah, I agree that she's got a great future.
The supporting cast is up to that, right? Her supporting cast in those scenes, like they feel like a family. They feel like they've been together forever, and they're all just, you know, and you see there's one of the scenes where Trevante Rhodes is coming into that discussion, and they all have the jokes and they all know how to needle each other. And I really like that. But again, there's some of the stuff, like the stylism gets a little too out of hand sometimes. And I felt like there are points where it just is dragging.
I do want to mention Joy Randolph.
I was going to say Divine Joy Randolph, Tyler James Williams, who's terrific, and Miss Lawrence, who I've never seen before, but he's hilarious in this. I was annoyed by the fact, and maybe this is just me being an old queen, but if you're going to have Natasha Lyonne play Tallulah Bankhead and not make the tiniest effort to recreate Tallulah Bankhead's distinctive voice, that just seemed like a weird choice to me.
Well, and I can't help but wonder how much of that got cut, because you don't cast Natasha Lyonne and then only have her for like 2 scenes. Like she's hardly in it.
She is kind of underutilized. Yeah. And I think they sort of underdeveloped the idea that like the part of what the FBI had on Billie Holiday was the idea was that she was bisexual and that she had affairs with women like Tallulah Bankhead, and that's sort of mentioned. It comes up, and they don't stay there very long.
Right, they didn't really suggest what the depth was of that romance there. It would have been nice to see more of that. Yeah.
Sure, for sure. So I give this a 6.5. I think it's a well-intentioned film for sure, and it's absolutely worth watching for, if nothing else, for Andra Day's performance. And there's other treats to be found along the way as well, but particularly that performance.
I'm saying 5, and my 5 is pretty much entirely for Andra Day.
I give it a 6. I think it's worth watching.
Okay, 5.8 is our number, and this is streaming where?
On Hulu.
Okay, Hulu. I can't. It's such a blur, you guys.
I know.
The world's a little blurry, as Billie Eilish says, but I don't know. I don't know where everything is playing anymore, but it's out there.
Drops on Hulu today. So, thanks for watching, you guys. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Check out our Patreon at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. We will be discussing the great Casey Lemon's 1997 indie classic Eve's Bayou as our monthly off the menu selection, which our subscribers chose for us to talk about for Black History Month. And of course, we're wrapping up our reviews of Bridgerton and keeping up with all the craziness on Marvel's WandaVision. Speaking of the MCU, Christy, what's coming up on Marvel Monday?
This week we did Thor. We're doing the first Thor, the Kenneth Branagh Thor from 2011. And Nick had never seen it. I saw it at Ebert Fest, actually. They set up a whole special screening for us at Ebert Fest to go and see it in 3D, which of course was dark and looked like crap. So I could vaguely see it more on my TV at home, but it's still dark as shit.
My main recollection of the first Thor is worst fake small town set since the 1984 Supergirl movie
in New Mexico.
Yeah,
and it's called Puente Antigua, like old bridge, because there's an old bridge that takes you to Asgard.
You guys
get it? Anyway, so Thor on Monday.
Awesome. All right, we'll check that out. Thanks as always for watching. We appreciate you being here. Have a good week. Take care of yourselves and each other. We'll be here next time. Bye.
Bye.